So, hello there, and welcome back to yet another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spike Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing Scoop, this new film on Netflix. So let's get into it, shall we? Scoop, as what I mentioned, is this new Netflix-produced movie about the infamous Prince Andrew interview that happened in 2019. And this film is directed by Philip Martin, who hasn't directed any particularly successful films, but has directed episodes of such notable TV shows as Night Sky, Catherine the Great, and The Crown. This film actually shares some similarities to The Crown. You can see some similarities in terms of the directing of both The Crown and this film. And I was interested in seeing this film because it's about an interview which is very infamous, and I haven't seen the complete Prince Andrew interview, but I have seen most of it. I was actually watching it online this morning to sort of remind me about it before doing this review today, to see the similarities between how they recreate the interview in this film and the original interview. And I was interested in seeing the background, the context to the Prince Andrew interview, how they got the interview, the build up to the interview, and how they actually let it happen, how Prince Andrew's people and Prince Andrew himself let that interview happen, because it's like watching a car crash happen on screen when you watch that actual interview, when you watch the real interview from 2019. And I wanted to see the context surrounding it. I wanted to see how they got that interview. Plus, I wanted to see this movie because of the cast they got ensembled for. I mean, you have Billie Piper, who I've liked ever since I saw in Doctor Who almost 20 years ago now. Wow, yeah, she first made her appearance, I think, 2005 in Doctor Who, and almost 20 years ago since she's been in Doctor Who. I've liked Billie Piper in almost anything I've seen her in. Although I haven't seen her in enough. I wish I get to see her in more things. And when I thought she was in this, I was like, okay, that's quite interesting casting, because she doesn't do a lot of films and TV shows. She's quite picky with the roles she chooses. It seems. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's the way it seemed with her. Also, you have Keeley Hawes in there, who I've liked ever since I saw in Ashes to Ashes, plus Rufus Sewell, who was great as the antagonist in A Knight's Tale. He was going to play Prince Andrew in this film, which I thought was great casting. Plus, you got Gillian Anderson as Emily Maitlis, and I haven't seen Emily Maitlis do a lot of interviews. I don't watch a lot of news, I'm going to admit, but from what I have seen of her, I thought Gillian Anderson was great casting. And the Google plot synopsis for the film goes as follows: an insider account of how the women of Newsnight secured Prince Andrew's infamous 2019 interview about his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And over the weekend, I checked out this film. I'm currently recording this review on Monday, and over the weekend, I checked out this film. I was quite looking forward to seeing it. I didn't actually know it was going to be a film. I thought it was going to be a TV show, so I was a little surprised when I was getting it all ready to start on Netflix, and it said it's an hour and 42 minutes, and I was like, what, it's a film? I thought it was a TV show myself, but still, I was looking forward to seeing it, and I sat down to watch it over the past weekend. And here are my thoughts on this film. Here are my thoughts on Scoop. To me, this film felt like a solid TV movie. It did not feel like it needed to be released theatrical, and it wasn't, so there's no big surprise there. But I wanted it to feel less like a Netflix film and more like a proper movie. I wanted to be riveted by it. I wanted there to be a narrative thrust with this film, and I wanted to find it more informative and more engaging, or more compelling, and I didn't really find it that compelling. Not that I think the storytelling in the film was done particularly well, and I'm not surprised this film has come from somebody who has worked mostly as a director in TV. You know, because this film, it felt like a TV movie. It felt like a straight-to-Netflix film, and I didn't want it to feel like that. Maybe my expectations were too high, because on Friday night, I watched Michael Mann's The Insider for the first time, and I was kind of blown away by that film. And it's a similar type of movie. It's about somebody who works in the television news industry trying to get a story on the screen, but they don't know if the story is going to get on the screen, because the news story itself is quite damaging, and there's going to be all this turmoil about getting that new story on screen. The Insider is over 2 hours and a half. It's a long film, but I was constantly gripped to the screen every single moment of that film, up to the end credits rolling. Literally up to the end credits rolling. I couldn't keep my eyes away from watching that film. Whilst with Scoop, I didn't find it nearly that engaging. I didn't think it was nearly as good as The Insider, and I'm compared to The Insider because I saw I saw that the other night, and perhaps it's not a fair comparison, I understand. But they are similar types of movies. And I wanted to feel riveted, properly riveted by this film. I couldn't keep my eyes off the screen, but I thought it was good. I'm not saying I disliked it, but I thought it also could have been a lot better, and it did feel a little like they didn't have any depth to the story, and they're trying to make something out of this Prince Andrew interview, which perhaps isn't there. I do feel there could have been more depth to the story, and I do feel it could have done a better job at presenting how disastrous the build-up and the effects of this Prince Andrew interview were, because the film does touch on that, but it doesn't truly make you feel that the interview was this train wreck we all know it to be. And again, I wanted more from this film in the end. I wanted more because I felt the pieces were there. You have this great cast giving off great performances for the most part. The only one I thought was slightly miscast was Keeley Hawes, because every single time Keeley Hawes was on screen in this film, all I was thinking was, that's Keeley Hawes. But Billie Piper's great. I think Billie Piper does a great job adding more complexity to her character in her performance than perhaps the writing of her character does. And I saw an interview where Billie Piper actually interviewed the real person that her character is based on, and she got it all right. She got all the mannerisms right, and you can tell that she put a lot into performance whilst you're watching the film, and when you watch some of the behind the scenes stuff about her playing this character as well, which I have done. Plus, Gillian Anderson is great as Emily Maitlis. Totally believed her in that role, and never felt like I was watching Gillian Anderson. And Rufus Sewell was great as Prince Andrew. I did see this morning someone created a short on YouTube, and I don't watch many YouTube shorts, but someone created a YouTube short comparing the real Prince Andrew in the real life infamous interview to the recreation of the infamous interview in this film, and compared Rufus Sewell's performance as Prince Andrew to the real Prince Andrew, and it was slightly uncanny. I think it's a very good performance, and I think Rufus Sewell did a very, very good job. And I really liked how I got to see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff with Prince Andrew, because it shed a different light on him. I'm not saying it shed a good light on him, I'm not saying that at all, but I liked the behind-the-scenes stuff, where you got to see Prince Andrew, building up to this interview. I know a lot of that was dramatised for the sake of the film, but that's film for you. People who come to this film expecting a literal beat-by-beat retelling of what actually happened, I think I'm going to be disappointed, because films are meant to be dramatised. It's like when people complain, this biopic, and this isn't a biopic, but just a little tangent here. When people complain that a biopic isn't exactly what the story was, because that's film for you. If you want to watch a retelling of the actual story, watch a documentary. But then even when you watch a documentary, you may not get the exact retelling of the story, because the documentary is told from a biased point of view. So I wasn't bothered by the fact that a lot of this film was probably dramatised and maybe even fictionalised for the sake of entertainment, because I do feel that the Rufus Sewell Prince Andrew that we get in this film was believable. And I like the behind the scenes stuff we get to see with him. Plus, I like the behind the scenes stuff we get to see with Gillian Anderson as Emily Maitlis preparing for this interview. That stuff was the most interesting stuff for me. But if I'm being frank and if I'm being completely honest, and that's why I'm in this review, otherwise what's the point of me doing these reviews on YouTube? I didn't really really find Billie Piper's storyline that interesting. All the stuff with her family and the stuff where you get to see her personal life, I didn't find that too interesting. And I felt that, again, it could have been more compelling. And I think that was in the writing and in the storytelling, because I don't think this is a very well directed film. It did feel like a Netflix production, and I wish that it didn't, because yes, this is a Netflix production. I understand it is, but I've seen Netflix produced films recently like Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, Trial of Chicago 7, The Killer, Maestro, or 13 Lives, which wasn't a Netflix produced film, but was a Prime Video produced movie, and that was only released on streaming as far as I'm aware. And the point I'm making is, all those films didn't feel like straight to streaming movies. They didn't feel like straight to Netflix or straight to Prime Video films. They felt like films which could have released theatrically. I'm not saying each one of those films was great. I had big problems with Maestro, and I didn't think The Killer was David Fincher's best film. But I felt that they could have been released theatrically, and you would have been satisfied watching them in the cinema. In fact, I was with some of those movies. I got the opportunity to watch some of those films in the cinema, and I'm glad that I did. But if I got the opportunity to watch this film in the cinema, I may have been a little disappointed. I may have felt underwhelmed. I'm not saying I would have, because I didn't get that option, I didn't get the opportunity, but it didn't feel like it needed to be told in the medium of film. It felt like they decided to tell this story, and Netflix decided to produce this film, decided to throw money at the story because they know people are going to watch it, but I wanted something else from this other than what I already know, because I've already seen the Prince Andrew interview, I've already seen most of it, and I actually think that is pretty much all you need to see. You don't need to watch this film, and because I don't think you get much more from it than what you already got in the interview, if you follow my thinking. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think it's bad at all. But even when the interview was taking place, I wanted to feel more tense, like I felt when I was watching Frost and Nixon for the first time. And when you see David Frost interviewing at that time President Nixon in that film, it's tense to watch. You're gripping the edge of your seat. I didn't feel that with this movie though, and I wanted to when the interview was taking place. The recreation of the interview is done very well, but still, I think it could have been better, because for me it did feel like a Netflix produced movie, and it didn't quite get to the depth that I wanted it to. Like, it didn't make me more angry than I already was about the situation. It didn't make me feel that the situation was more disastrous than it actually was. Like, we all know how disastrous the interview was, but this film didn't make the interview seem more disastrous, in my opinion. And additionally, I thought that it just felt like a TV movie. And maybe this story will work better as a TV show, because they are making it into a TV show as well. This exact same story. I think things will be changed, obviously, but they are making this story into a TV show. It's going to be called A Very Royal Scandal, and I think it's coming out late this year, and it's going to have Ruth Wilson playing Emily Maitlis, and Michael Sheen is one of my favourite actors around right now. He's playing Prince Andrew in that series, and I think it might work better as a series. I genuinely think it might work better, because it really it will be able to delve into these characters, delve into what the build up and everything. Whilst this film, because it's a film, it's only got under 2 hours to do so, and I don't think it's fully succeeded. It felt like a TV movie in the end, and I wish it didn't, because it had the potential to be something really brilliant, but it wasn't. It was good, it was informative, but it wasn't as good as I hoped it would be. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Scoop, I'm going to say it's a 7 out of 10. I still like the film. I still thought it was good. Big performances. I just wish there was more to it. That was all, But it is what it is. And did I think it was a worthwhile watch? I would say it was a worthwhile watch, but also it's not a film I'll be revisiting anytime soon. And I'm giving this film a 7 out of 10 because I thought it was a solid TV movie, nothing more, nothing less. And that's pretty much all I have to say about this film overall. And so, all in all, as I said, and as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, Scoop is a 7 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Scoop, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Maybe you thought the film was absolutely brilliant, or maybe you thought the film was not too good. Maybe you didn't really like it at all. Whatever your thoughts are on this film, please let me know in the comment section below. And Thank you as always for watching or listening to this podcast, and if you haven't yet, please don't forget to like and subscribe on this podcast, and please also don't forget that you can check out this podcast on Spotify. If you prefer to listen to your podcast audibly, you can check out this podcast on Spotify, and if you are listening to this podcast on Spotify, thank you for listening to this audibly, and you should also know that you can check this podcast out visually on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform. And yeah, so thank you for watching or listening wherever you have been. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I suppose this is it. So I will see you guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye.